Hi friends, my name is Jess and welcome back to my channel, Books Past Bedtime. Today, I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I think this is my third year doing this tag, which is just crazy that I've been on BookTube long enough to have done this for 3 years in a row, but it is kind of a cool milestone to reach. So yeah, let's get into mid-year book freakout tag round 3. The very first question right out the gate is the best book that you've read so far in 2022. I don't have just one book for this answer like most people, so I have my current top 4 here in front of me, and here they are in no particular order. So first I'm going to talk about the one that I finished most recently, and that is Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. This is a sci-fi book with a side of romance, but I mean, we all know I was mostly here for the romance, but it was a very good, strong, slow burn, arranged marriage romance. There's a lot of like political bureaucracy, and there's also like a murder mystery. So this was a super well-rounded book. Sci-fi isn't usually something I reach for, but I absolutely loved this one. Janin and Kiam are some of my favorite characters that I've read from this year. I absolutely loved this book. 5 out of 5 stars. It is unlikely that most of you will be shocked by this next book, and that is Unhinged by Only James. I do have the physical copy and I have annotated it, and it's so beautiful. I love it so much. I'm sure if you've been here before, you've heard me talk about this series, but this is the first book in the Necessary Evils series by Only James, and it follows our main character Adam, who is a part of this family of serial killers who are trained to take out all of the bad guys that the justice system misses, and this is his romance with Noah, who is the son of one of the men that Adam killed. This series is so freaking good. I've been obsessed with it this year. I love it so much. This is definitely in my top books of the year. Now, one of the first books I read this year that has remained one of my favorites that I've read is The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. This is another male-male romance. This is a more contemporary one. It is set on this TV show that's kind of like The Bachelor, but it's royalty themed, right? No. Yeah. It's called Ever After. Our main character Charlie is supposed to be the Prince Charming on the show. He's going on the show to kind of repair his image. Dev ends up being assigned to be Charlie's handler. Dev really believes in the show and is kind of mad that Charlie is there for the wrong reasons, but they end up having this connection and this kind of like forbidden romance because Charlie's on the show. Like, he can't really be dating his handler. This was really cute. It handled mental health so well, which is one of the reasons why I loved it so much. And the romance was just like perfect. I love this book. It was amazing. And the final book that I'm going to talk about for my favorites of the year so far is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. This is the book that's probably the most different from the other 3, but it was still amazing, incredible, immaculate. I think you would classify this as a thriller. It follows these 2 fathers who are connected because their sons were together in this relationship. They are also connected because they were both not the greatest to their sons. They were kind of homophobic and didn't have the best relationship, but then their sons are killed in this terrible crime, and the fathers team up to try and figure out what happened to their kids. Along the way, do some internal work about how they were shitty to their kids. This book was so amazing and powerful. I absolutely loved it. I still think about it all the time, and it is by far one of the best books that I have read so far this year. Now, you might be wondering why one of the books that I won't shut up about is not included on that list, and it's because I used it for the answer to the next question. The next question is, what is the best sequel you've read so far in 2022? And I have to give that to every sequel that is out so far in the Monsters series by Lily Mayne. This is a male-male monster romance series. It's set in a post-apocalyptic United States. The apocalypse was caused when a tear between worlds allowed monsters to infiltrate the world as we know it, and now the United States is kind of like a wasteland with all of the people congregated on the outsides, and in the middle it's called the wastes. And that's where like the monsters live, and some humans that don't want to be part of society live out there too. And it's kind of like a gritty survivalist post-apocalyptic series plus super cute romances between monsters and their human mates, and it's fan-fucking-tastic. I love it so much. The first book is called Soul Eater. I love that book. 5 stars. And then it has 4 sequels out so far. Eden is the 2nd book. The Reek is the 3rd book. Galome is the 4th book. Moth is the 5th book. Moth is like my favorite book of the year. I love that book so freaking much. It is so good. Like, it's like 10 out of 5 stars. Incredible. Immaculate. I love it. Each book in the series follows a different couple. My ranking is probably like Moth first, and then Ghost and Ori from the 3rd book, The Reek. Love them to freaking death. They have the cutest dynamics. They're both like sweet and shy, and there's like a lot of pining that goes on. Oh my god, they're so cute. I love this series so much. Honestly, this is an unpopular opinion. I would probably put Eden and Hunter third from the second book, Eden. A lot of people don't like Hunter because he's kind of abrasive, but I really liked him, and I think him and Eden are really funny together. And then I would put Danny and Wynn, and then from the first book, Soul Eater, and then in fifth place, the fourth book, Gloam and Rig. They were fine. That was definitely my least favorite book, actually. It was like a 3-star book in a 5-star series, which is kind of strange. I just didn't like the dynamic. I didn't connect to that book particularly, and it was very slow. But honestly, all of these sequels, 5 out of 5 stars. I love them so much. Easily best sequels I've read so far this year. The third question is a new release for 2022 that you haven't gotten around to reading yet that you really want to. I also have multiple answers for this question. I think I have multiple answers for every question. First, I have A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. I have fallen in love with Alexis Hall's writing style this year and have loved every book that I've read by them. So I'm super excited for this newest release, which is a Regency romance with a trans main character, which just sounds amazing and immaculate, and I cannot wait to read it. I am also really highly anticipating So This Is After by F.T. Lukens. I did read their debut book In Deeper Waters earlier this year and didn't love it, but this one sounds so good and it's so pretty, and I just have a better feeling about this one. Like, look at this freaking cover. It is so pretty. Oh my god, I love it. Okay, so this is, from what I understand, male romance. Our main character, it's like a fantasy. Our main character inherits the throne, and in order to keep the throne, he has to have like a partner. He has to get married, as one does. I think this is like him racing against the clock to find someone, and he realizes that his best friend has been there all along. So I think it's like friends to lovers. It sounds really cool. I'm really still highly anticipating this one and hope to get to it really soon. And then I also want to make sure I pick up Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandra Bellafleur. This is the third book in her like Written in the Stars series. I've read the first book, Written in the Stars, earlier this year, and I absolutely loved it. I am sad that it took me so long to read it because that one's been out for like almost 2 years now. This is the third book in that series, following one of her friends and their romance. I think it's a childhood friends to lovers, second chance romance type of deal, and I think it also has forced proximity, as one girl offers for the other girl to live with her while she's down on her luck or something. I really liked the first book. I haven't read the second one, but it's a straight romance, so I'm not sure if I'm going to read it. I might just skip right to this one. The next question is your most anticipated releases for the next half of 2022. Number one on my list after reading Winter's Orbit is Ocean's Echo by Everina Maxwell. I am so fucking excited for this book. Thank you, Elizabeth, for making sure I was aware of this because I wasn't. But basically, this is a book that is set in the same world as Winter's Orbit, but follows new characters. And in this book, there is like a forced soul bond, mental bond. Oh my fucking god, I'm so excited. That is like my favorite fan fiction trope of all time. I just love it. And I cannot wait to see how Everina does it. I just think it's gonna be so good. I'm so excited. I don't even know what the rest of the book is about. Like, when I saw Soul Bond, I was in 100%. That's all I need to know, honestly. I am also, of course, very excited for Lunatic by Only James. This is going to be the 6th book in the Necessary Evil series, the second to last, and it follows Archer. There is actually a crossover in this series with the Elite Protection series. Elite Protection something series. It's like one of the brothers of the love interest, and that series is Archer's love interest in this series. And I've started reading this one on Patreon, and it's so good. The series is just so much fun. It's just so fun, and I can't wait for this 6th book, of course. I also cannot wait for Husband Material by Alexis Hall. This is the 2nd book in Boyfriend Material series. I don't know if it has like a series name, but the first book's called Boyfriend Material. I read it earlier this year. Absolutely loved it. It is a male-male fake dating romance, and it was so good. It was so sweet and cute and fluffy and funny. Like, Alexis Hall's writing is so funny, so I can't wait to see what happens to Luke and Oliver next as they presumably get married. Another book I can't wait for is Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. I read Delilah Green Doesn't Care, which is the first book in this series, earlier this month actually that I'm filming this, and I really liked it. It wasn't a full 5 stars, but it was very close, and I really liked the side characters of Astrid and Iris, so I can't wait to see their romances. And Astrid had a real shitty man in the first book, and so I'm excited to see her in a better relationship that hopefully helps her blossom, and obviously a woman is better for doing that than a man, so It's just who I am, okay? I can't help myself. Anyway, and then I do have a thriller on this list because I do still kind of keep up with what's happening with thrillers, even though I've like read 0 so far this year. But I do really want to pick up The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. Ashley Winstead wrote the knife book. What is it called? In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. That is the book she wrote. And I read that earlier this year and I really liked it. This book has cults in it. So I'm even more excited for that. I don't really know exactly what it's about. I know that it follows this woman who's like trying to take down this cult. That's all I need to know. I really think cults are very interesting and I really liked Ashley Winstead's previous book. This one I think is gonna be good. If I don't read another thriller for the rest of the year, I think I will make it a point to pick this one up. The next question is your biggest disappointment of the year. And prepare yourselves, guys. I'm sorry to say, but I think my biggest disappointment of the year was A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Now, don't get me wrong, like I tabbed some things, like I liked it alright, but for the way y'all hyped this book up, it did not deliver. It did not deliver, okay? Like, it was not that good. It was kind of boring. It was very slow. The sex scene, awkward. And it's like, it's a singular scene. You guys, this is not a spicy book. Stop telling people this is a spicy book. Like, I'm sure my audience is not out there telling people that this is a spicy book, but it's just so funny because I went into this book with such high expectations because everyone loves this series so much. If you didn't know, it's a fantasy romance series between a fairy and a human. Feyre, first of all, is like a very annoying, boring main character. Like, she's very much like a blank canvas for you to self-insert yourself onto, which I'm not a self-insert reader, so I don't vibe with that. There's just really no plot to speak of for this large book, and there's also no romance to speak of for this huge book. So it was just like, I don't know. Disappointing, needless to say. I did give it like 3 stars. Like, it's not a bad book. It just was definitely disappointing because it did not live up to my expectations in the slightest. As I throw it on the ground. The next question is, what was your biggest surprise of the year so far? And for that, I'm actually going to go with The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is kind of a historical fantasy that takes the events of like the Opium Wars in Asia and transcribes them into a fantasy book following our main character Rin, who we learn is a shaman who has the power to call upon the gods and use their powers. She is thrust into this war that's taking place in her country and she has to defend her home even though she's super young and not totally prepared for everything war entails, as no one usually ever is. It's war. But this being like a high fantasy book, I wasn't sure that I would love it, but it totally took me by surprise and I absolutely thought it was amazing. Like, it will probably end up in my top books of the year. It was really good. I gave it a full 5 stars. Even though it's a high fantasy, like, the characters were so well done too that you like fall in love with all of them. Writing is just really good in this book. It seemed like every word and sentence was crafted and chosen with intention and care and for a purpose, which I really appreciated and enjoyed, because sometimes fantasies can just be like too verbose, but I feel like this one did a good job of only sharing relevant and necessary information. I just really loved it. I thought it was really well done, really good. It's definitely like heavy, don't get me wrong, but for what it is, I thought it was amazing, and it definitely took me by surprise because I was not expecting to love it nearly as much as I did. The next question is your new favorite author, and I think this is probably not shocking to anyone because for me that is Only James. I discovered Only James this year and I've read almost her entire backlist at this point. I think there's one 3-book series that I have not read yet. I've just fallen in love with her books. They're so much fun. They're so easy to read. They're so hot. They're just very comforting to me. They're just a fun time, and I will read anything she writes because I just think she's very talented in the genre, creates amazing characters that I love to death, and she's funny as hell, so I'm into it. And then I might as well just keep this book up here for the next question, which is your new fictional crush, because my new fictional crush is Adam Mulvaney. I mean, look at him, he's beautiful. Take back what I've ever said about men. Because a tattooed dark-haired man is my shit. Especially Adam like paints his nails and he cares so much about Noah, even though he's a psychopath. He like calls people and is like, yo, I don't have feelings, but my boyfriend has feelings and I want to help him out. Please tell me what to do in this situation to make him feel better. Like, hello? How thoughtful is that? He's just hot as hell and possessive, and I love it. I love Adam so much because fictional men are far superior. They're the only kind of man that is acceptable. And then I do have a second fictional crush that I want to shout out, and that is London from Love and Other Disasters. I loved London so much. They just did it for me. I don't know. They can cook. We're just so sweet and a little bit grumpy. If you didn't know, this is a contemporary romance. It takes place on the set of a cooking show. It was made for me. I love cooking shows. Has non-binary rep. London is non-binary. I just fucking loved them. They were so sweet and they cared so much about Dahlia, treated her so well, and I just really like the quiet, grumpy persona that London has going for them. I really liked them. I liked them a lot, and I definitely have a crush on them. The next question is your new favorite character. I have 2 answers for this question as well. The first of which is Janin from Winter's Orbit. Janin is just such an interesting character to read from their perspective. He's just such a sweet, little cinnamon bun that I want to hug and protect from the world because he's just been treated like absolute shit, and he just internalizes it all and thinks it's his fault, which is so tragic. And thankfully Kim shows him that it was not his fault and that he shouldn't think like that. But Janin is just my baby, and I loved watching him come out of his shell and talk about his feelings. Oh my god, I love him. I'm gonna cry if I keep talking about it. And then my other answer for this question is Moth from the self-titled book Moth by Lily Mayne. Moth is another one of those characters who is just beaten down by life. And I just want to hug him. He's my baby. I loved him so much. He is just the sweetest thing, but he pretends to have this gruff, I don't give a fuck exterior to kind of protect himself. Oh, he hurts my heart. I can't even really explain. It's just I have a soft spot for these characters who have just been beaten down by life but are still so sweet, but they pretend they have it all together and that they're fine, but then the other character gets to comfort them. There's just something about it. Moth was just so sweet. He was such a real character to me, and I loved him and this book so freaking much. The next question is a book that made you cry this year, and I went through my Goodreads and I have not cried as often at books as I have in the past. Is it perhaps because I'm finally medicated for my mental health issues? I don't know, but I have cried at 3 books so far this year. Number 1 was The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. Number 2 was Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. And then finally was Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I've read quite a few Colleen Hoover books this year. This one's by far my favorite. It was so good. It is kind of a family drama about this woman who lost her child in prison, and now that she's out of prison, she wants to go and lost her child. She lost her parental rights to her child when she was in prison, and now that she's out, she wants to go and have a relationship with her daughter, but her daughter is being kept by the family of her deceased boyfriend, and they don't really want her in her daughter's life. So it's very much an emotional story about family and about forgiveness, and there is a bit of romance in there between our main character and her deceased boyfriend's best friend, and this book was just really good and it definitely made me cry. On the flip side, the next question is books that made you happy. I have quite a few for that. The first one is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. Like I said, this book was just so freaking funny. The writing was so good. I loved the characters. I felt like I had a smile on my face the entire time I was reading it. Same goes for Something Fabulous by Alexis Hall. This is a male-male Regency romance with a demisexual main character. We love that asexual rep. But again, this book was just hilarious. I was laughing out loud reading it. I thought it was so funny. I loved it to death. And finally, I did a reread of Heartstopper Volume 1 earlier this year. Nothing could make me happier than that, so I had to throw it in here. It's just so cute, I could cry. Which leads me into the next question, which is your favorite adaptation so far this year. Obviously Heartstopper. There's no other possible answer to this question. This is one of the best adaptations ever, period. 2022, regardless, one of the best adaptations ever made. It is so true to the spirit of the original material. Kit Connor and Joe Locke are perfect. I love it so much. It was so freaking good. I've watched it 5 times and I might start it again tonight. Who knows? The next question is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year, and I definitely think that has to go to I Kissed Cher Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. This is the Barnes & Noble special edition, and it is so freaking beautiful, and the inside with the flowers, Oh my god, it's so gorgeous. It is, the art is just incredible. I love the colors. I love, purple's like my favorite color, so it has to go to this book. I love it so much. And the final question is, what are some books that you have to read before the end of the year? I don't really have any exact answers to this question. I have a couple like videos planned that I'm planning to do. Other than the like releases that I already talked about, I am going to be finishing the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. So I've already read Jade City, so I will be reading Jade Legacy and Jade War, I think is what they're called. Those will definitely be happening for the Fantasy Series Book Club. I will also definitely be finishing the ACOTAR series. Does it have a name? I don't know. But I have Akawar, Akosaf, whatever, Silver Flames left to read. So I will be reading those for sure, because we're doing that ACOTAR read-along. Please join my book club and my read-along if you so desire. Linked down below. And other than that, I don't really have any particular plans. Also, I would just be here forever if I decided to list off my TBR for the rest of the year, because hopefully it will be over 100 books because my goal is 200 and I'm only at 88 right now. So I need to step it up a little bit. So hopefully I will be reading 110 books between now and the end of the year. And that is all of the questions for the mid-year book freakout tag. Thank you so much for watching this video, being here. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, TikTok. All those good things are linked in my description down below. And don't forget to like this video. It really helps me out, and subscribe if you would like to see more content from me. That'll be it. I will see you in the next one. Bye.